but it is drying out. And then toward the end of the week, more rain comes through. Next weekend looks decent. Let's bring in Inez and see how things are getting around today. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. A little tough flying out today. LaGuardia Airport, as you heard, has been closed because of breaking news due to that crash that happened last night. And that's closed until 2 o'clock. But now Newark Airport has a ground stop this morning, and that's because of a smoke condition in one of the towers. They had to relocate everyone there. So right now they're moving towers. There is a stoppage on arrivals and departures until 9:30 this morning. You have that ground stop, even though we do see some movement. There's a ground stop there. If you're heading to the airport, expect delays on the Turnpike and 1 and 9. I am hearing it's a little busy. If you're heading towards the Belts Parkway, you're fine. The Van Wyck a little slow here. Once you pass Jamaica Avenue, things do open up a little bit. So a little sluggish there, northbound more than southbound, heading towards the airports. Over on the Whitestone Expressway, heading towards the Van Wyck, that's slow this morning due to an accident, leaving only one lane open. Delays go back to the Whitestone Bridge there, as well as the Clearview and the Cross Island Parkway. The George Washington Bridge, 75 minutes on the upper level. Lower level, a 60-minute delay. That's because of an accident closing all lanes on the off-ramp heading towards the Harlem River Drive and Amsterdam Avenue. There's an investigation going on. That's been closed since 4:30 this morning. If you want to head for the Lincoln Tunnel, it's about 40 minutes inbound this morning heading into the city. Then with the rails, the subways, the 4 and 5 trains, uptown trains, local service only between Union Square and 125th Street. New Jersey Transit has a 20-minute delay on the Morris and Essex line due to earlier signal issues. Back to you, Dan and Rosanna.
Okay, thank you so much, Inez, for that update. And as we've been mentioning, we are following breaking news this morning. LaGuardia Airport, this is what it looked like last night when an Air Canada plane collided with a Port Authority fire truck on the runway. Both the pilot and the co-pilot were killed. Dozens of people were injured on that plane.
That's right. The airport is now closed until at least 2 o'clock to allow officials to investigate. The NTSB headed there. Joining us now is aviation expert J.P. Tristani. He is a retired commercial airline pilot and aeronautical engineer. JP, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. With what we know so far, what is your takeaway?
Well, you can make a dozen excuses. You can call it for the weather. You can call it for the airport layout. The simple fact remains is that an EMT vehicle responding to another emergency on board on the airfield entered an active duty runway with an aircraft that was on landing rollout. The aircraft is not a go-kart or an automobile. It cannot maneuver. And so this vehicle that looks apparently from the damage sideswiped the nose of the aircraft, killing the 2 pilots and probably seriously injured the flight attendant that had to be sitting just after the cockpit in that seat. So you can talk about the miscommunication between the tower. It comes down to the EMT vehicle was required to, prior to entering an active duty runway, to see and avoid and operate with caution.
And when we talk about this, the plane as it was landing, how fast do you think it was going to cause the damage that we're seeing here?
I don't think the damage was caused by the aircraft movement. If he was on rollout, as apparently he was, he'd be doing somewhere around 30 miles an hour. That's obviously well below the landing normal speed. And he's near the end of the runway, 6,000 feet of rollout, or maybe if he tried to stop before the intersection. But nonetheless, that vehicle, it's a fire truck, that's a pretty heavy vehicle. Yeah. And whatever speed he was traveling at, to take out that nose, the nose is gone. And it looks like the nose gear is also gone. So I don't think it was the speed of the aircraft struck from the side. It's more the vehicle speed and the tonnage of that fire truck.
JP, you know, we've been reporting the last few weeks on the stress at the airports, whether it's TSA, whether it's the FAA control towers. But what about the EMTs that are there on the ground working at the airports? It was close to midnight, rainy, maybe foggy out there at that point. What do we know about the EMTs working at the airport?
Well, you're going to have close to midnight. You just said it, Rosanna. Fatigue factor and the response factor, and also the emergency itself of getting to another aircraft that I don't know if he declared an emergency on the ground due to what was occurring in the cabin and the cockpit, odor, smoke, whatever it was. Nonetheless, it doesn't matter. A pilot from takeoff to landing is required to have the same attention and focus and responsibility and accountability regardless of the time of flight, hours in the air. It doesn't change. So we can make a lot of excuses, as I said, and come up with all kinds of contributing factors. Oh, the rain, a little bit of fog. It doesn't matter. An EMT vehicle entered an active duty runway. That aircraft was a sitting duck on the runway. It cannot maneuver left or right easily. And then look at the positive side. If that aircraft had been struck severe enough to rupture a fuel tank, where you would have had both engines igniting that fuel, we'd be talking of an entirely different tragedy today.
Would have been a disaster. So, JP, I mean, obviously, airplanes have the right of way on the tarmac. But it seems like this fire truck had been given permission at one point to proceed to that United flight that was reporting problems with an odor on board. But then we heard the air traffic controller saying, stop, stop, stop. Are those EMTs required to, visually look before they proceed, even with permission?
Of course. It's no different than operating under visual conditions in the air. You are required as a pilot to see and avoid. Now, you're going on to an active duty runway. That fire truck was cleared to cross the. Now you have a communication problem. Regardless of that fact, regardless of the conditions of the surrounding weather, that EMT vehicle was required, just as a pilot in the air, to see and avoid. That aircraft is landing with its full landing lights on. I mean, It's not exactly coming out of the darkness or the fog bank or anything like that. Surprise. And they had to be alerted by tower that there was, or ground control, that there was an aircraft landing. So again, we can make a dozen excuses for the fire truck, but it's not going to end up changing, probably, in my estimation, the final conclusion of an accident. And a vehicle entered an active duty runway with an aircraft landing.
And JP, we're just wrapping up here. I just want to go back to something you said in the beginning about this flight attendant that apparently was strapped into her seat, that somehow this seat ended up outside of the plane. You saw that report, you heard about it. How could that happen? What did you make of it?
Well, looking at the damage to the nose, it was torn off. That seat, as I recall, in that type of an aircraft, her back was to the cockpit door. That's where she should be seated, or he, whatever it was, female or male. And so the very fact that impact that tore off a nose gear and the cockpit, that also resulted in the aircraft tilting back, the impact had to be severe. Wow. That truck had to be moving at one heck of a speed, which probably will be able to be determined from some of the onboard computer networks that are on all vehicles, if that fire truck had such.
Well, that would have been a disaster. Yeah. And that flight attendant, it's a miracle.
Absolute miracle.
I believe it's a female that she's okay this morning. Anyway, we always appreciate talking to you, JP Tristani, aviation expert, retired commercial airline pilot, and aeronautical engineer. Thank you so much for your insight.
Nice seeing you both again, so have a swell day. Cheers.
You too.
All right, it is just about 8:40 here on this Monday morning. It's a busy morning here. We'll have much more on the collision between an Air Canada plane and a Port Authority vehicle on the runway of LaGuardia.
We'll have the latest when Good Day New York returns. All right, as we've been telling you since early this morning, we are following breaking news at LaGuardia Airport. We are still trying to figure out what happened when a plane crashed with an EMT fire truck at LaGuardia. Flights now canceled at LaGuardia after this collision with this Port Authority fire truck.
Deadly collision. The pilot and co-pilot on the plane are dead. Dozens more are injured. We have some new information this morning. Let's get to Jessica Formoso, who's following the story. Jessica, good morning.
Good morning, Dan and Rosanna. All this under investigation at this hour. We know that that fire truck collided with that plane. We know that, according to the executive director of the Port Authority, procedure is that in order to get onto the runway, that truck had to have clearance from the tower. So that all under investigation at this time. The NTSB here on the scene, more investigators on the way. And we also know the FAA has sent a team to help NTSB investigators. So let's go ahead and look at this video here. Just really incredible, jaw-dropping video of this incident here at LaGuardia. You can see the severe damage to this Air Canada plane operated by Jazz. Police have confirmed 2 people have died. The pilot and co-pilot, their identities have not been released pending family notification. 41 passengers, including crew members, were transported to the hospital, where you can see the crushed nose of that airplane pointing upward, tilting in the air, and the rear section of that plane dropped down on its side. According to the Port Authority, the Air Canada flight collided with a Port Authority emergency vehicle after landing here at LaGuardia Airport at around 11:40 last night. The incident happening on runway 4. Authorities say the plane struck a Port Authority aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle that was responding to a separate incident at the time. Air Canada says flight 8646 was coming from Montreal. We know 72 passengers and 4 crew members were on board. You're about to hear that audio from air traffic control moments leading to that deadly crash.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower.
Truck 1 and Company.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, crossing 4 at Delta.
Frontier 4195, stop there, please. Stop, stop.
Yeah, and we keep replaying that, but you hear that stop, and clearly they did not stop. Now, Air Canada has set up a phone line for family and friends. You can see that number there on your screen. Let's talk about that emergency vehicle, that fire truck that was responding. We know, according to authorities, was responding to another airplane, to a United flight. The pilot there called it in because of an odor he was smelling. We know 2 officers were inside that emergency vehicle, a sergeant and a Port Authority police officer. They were both taken to the hospital and are in stable condition. You're about to hear from a passenger inside that flight.
We were coming in pretty fast. It was like a regular flight, like always. But as we were arriving, we came down really hard, and then we stopped really quickly, and then about 2 seconds later, we just had an absolute slam. Everybody was flying everywhere. I mean, the plane started veering off left and right, and there was, it was chaos. I mean, it didn't feel like there was anybody in control of anything, and. But looking back on it, the pilot did the best thing he could. He hit the brakes as hard as he could, and he knew it was going to be at the cost of his own life.
Okay, so we did ask the executive director of the Port Authority what is the procedure, the protocol for an emergency vehicle to be on the runway, and she tells us that they have to get clearance from the control tower in order to be on the runway. So clearly all this under investigation at this hour. Dan, Rosanna?
Very much. And now to more on the treatment of passengers and the condition of those 2 officers.
Okay, let's go to Robert Moses. He's outside Elmhurst Hospital this morning, where he's seen some of those people be released from the hospital. What's going on?
Yeah, Rosanna and Dan, we're just about 2 miles or so away from LaGuardia Airport. Elmhurst Hospital is one of 2 hospitals that receive patients from this disaster. The other is New York Presbyterian Queens. Both are level 1 trauma centers, which means that they are uniquely equipped to handle the most severe injuries you can imagine. 41 passengers, along with crew members, and those 2 Port Authority officers who were in the fire truck were taken to the hospital. Most of those 41, 32 we're told, have already been released. Some of those who remain sustained serious injuries from the impact, and you can imagine that impact, as we've been telling you about throughout the morning. Experts have been telling us that that plane could have been going 30 or 40 miles an hour when it collided with the truck, and perhaps some passengers may have unbuckled their seatbelts, which would have exacerbated any impact injuries that they would have sustained. We heard from Port Authority Executive Director Catherine Garcia earlier this morning about those who were hurt.
Initial numbers indicate that 41 passengers and crew were transported to the hospital, as well as the ARF officers. At this time, we understand that 32 have been released, but there are also serious injuries.
I've reached out to both hospitals, that is Elmhurst and New York Presbyterian Queens. I did hear back from New York Presbyterian Queens. A spokeswoman tells me that she can't divulge any information because of patient privacy. I would suspect the same will be true when we hear from Elmhurst Hospital. But I think, judging from what we know about how fast the plane was going whenever it impacted that fire truck, many of these injuries are going to be concussions and the sort of blunt force injuries that you would expect from a relatively high-speed collision such as this. As soon as we learn anything more about the patient breakdown, how many patients remain here, we'll let you know. Dan, Rosanna, back to you.
Robert, thank you very much. A devastating crash coming up. We are continuing to keep a close eye on the breaking news at LaGuardia.
Good day's coming right back.
Good Monday morning. Yes, we still have some scattered showers around the tri-state region, including out at LaGuardia Airport, but the intensity is backing down quite a bit at this point in time, which is good news for us. This is what was happening last night between about 10 o'clock yesterday evening until about 2 o'clock in the morning. There were some light to moderate rain showers that were over us for a while, but it wasn't anything that really backed up the airports to a complete degree to where things would stop or anything like that. Fog and visibility numbers were never all that significant either. Now, for us here today, we've got that cold front pressing through, so now the backside of the showers is starting to work its way out onto Long Island. So it is coming to a close. The rain's coming to a close for the 5 boroughs, but we still have some showers for Nassau County, Suffolk County, and over into Connecticut. The lightning counter, we had a few, but they're mainly to the south of New England, not for us here in the tri-state region. So things are winding down as the colder air arrives, and it will start to dry us out. But already some significant rain has come through, about a ½ inch to an inch of rain, or even a little bit more in some places around the tri-states come through, which helps us out in terms of the drought situation, but it's also inconvenient. 41 Central Park right now, 37 degrees in Sussex. The high for the day has happened. That happened at midnight. The north wind continues to bring in that cooler, drier air, so we'll see a drier sky in the afternoon. When you're at high temp in the afternoon is at 42. The next couple of days are dry as well. Let's bring in Inez and see where the slowdowns are. Let's like to get around all together. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Well, we have an update on the ground stop at Newark Airport. That's been lifted, so flights are moving again. The arrivals and departures. Of course, LaGuardia Airport, that's still closed until 2 o'clock. As for the roads right now, accident investigation has the ramp coming off the George Washington Bridge heading towards the Harlem River Drive and Amsterdam Avenue closed. It's been closed since 4:30 this morning. So heading towards the GWB, it's 75 minutes on the upper level, lower level 60 minutes. The Lincoln Tunnel, a lot of people using that as an alternate, so that's looking like about 45 to 50 there heading inbound into the city. With the rails, New Jersey Transit in and out of Penn Station, there's a 20-minute delay due to Amtrak signal issues. Back to you, Rosanna and Dan.
Inez, thank you very much. And the shutdown at LaGuardia is causing more trouble for the surrounding airports as passengers look to find some other flights.
Well, it comes on the heels of long waits and delays already happening at TSA lines. Briella Tomasetti, we now know some of those people who were supposed to leave at LaGuardia this morning. They're trying to see if they can get a flight out of Kennedy. Right. Mm-hmm. What's going on over there?
Flight out of Kennedy. Some people may have gone to Newark Airport, where there was, as Inez mentioned, a temporary ground stop in place. There's a live look of the airport right now behind me, but that temporary ground stop has been lifted. Port Authority officials say the air traffic control tower there was evacuated due to smoke. Staffers moved their operations to a backup facility at Terminal C, allowing for flight operations to resume, which is a very good sign, all things considered. It was already expected to be a busy day at our local airports. JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark are 3 of the 14 high-volume U.S. airports where White House border czar Tom Homan announced that ICE agents would be deployed beginning today. The chaos started over the weekend with long lines winding through LaGuardia and wait times climbing to 3 hours due to the ongoing Homeland Security shutdown. But travel issues surged after that Air Canada passenger jet collided with the Port Authority vehicle at LaGuardia late last night. And we have video from one person who was supposed to fly out of LaGuardia this morning. Here it is. They changed their flight to JFK. The airport is visibly mobbed with security lines backing all the way up through Terminal 8. That's home to American Airlines. We also have reaction from frustrated passengers caught in the crosshairs of all this. First, you'll hear from a young woman who was supposed to take off from LaGuardia last night, bound for Columbus, Ohio. She says she sat on the runway for several hours before finding out that the airport was shut down.
My flight was supposed to leave at 8 p.m. and we were stuck in the craziness of the security for about an hour, even with, pre-check and clear and everything. And we finally got through. And then our flight got delayed 1 hour, and then it got delayed another hour. Then we're on the plane finally. We were on the plane for a total of 3 hours waiting on the runway. Someone in the aisle in front of me said, "Everyone look on Twitter, a plane crashed into the fire truck." So then everyone looked, everyone started panicking. The flight attendants weren't really saying much until we all saw, and then they notified us that we had to get off the plane.
And here's sound from another passenger.
Are you aware what happened here with that accident?
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly was told to you guys inside?
Nothing.
That there was an incident.
Just look on your news.
Yeah, look on your phone, basically.
Yeah, what's your plan?
We're going to go to JFK and see what we can get on there.
According to FlightAware, more than 1,000 flights were scheduled to or from LaGuardia Airport today. More than half of them were canceled by 7 o'clock this morning. Rough day moving ahead, Rosanna and Dan.
All right, Briella, thank you very much.
And LaGuardia is closed. I'm looking right now. Latest is at least till 2 o'clock today.
2 o'clock for sure.
They have to investigate. All right, coming up at 9 o'clock right here on Good Day New York, we've got the latest on that deadly plane collision at LaGuardia Airport, how it's affecting the surrounding airports.
Real problem.
TSA lines, a major problem.
Yeah, already this morning we saw those lines at the other airports, and now with what's happening at LaGuardia, the spillover is creating a real domino effect.
And we're hearing reports that ICE agents are trying to help TSA agents, possibly at Kennedy Airport this morning, but they are not trained to look at the screens to check for bags.
More problems.
Check your bags. So anyway, we'll get you up to speed on how that's all working out this morning.
Good day. We'll be right back.
We have breaking news for you right now. You are looking at LaGuardia Airport and what's left of that Air Canada jet. One of the busiest airports in the nation closed down this morning. This is the wreckage left behind after an Air Canada plane collided with a fire truck at LaGuardia late last night. Both pilots died. The airport is now closed until at least 2 o'clock this afternoon as they investigate. 9 o'clock in the morning. Good day, New York. I'm Rosanna Scotto. We appreciate you joining us this morning, and we've got team coverage for you. We've been getting information in by dribs and drabs. Jessica Formosa is at LaGuardia Airport right now. Robert Moses outside the hospital. But let's start with Jessica. What is the latest? Do we know if the NTSB has showed up yet?
Good morning, Rosanna. Yes, investigators from the NTSB on scene, and we're told more are on the way. We also know that the FAA has sent a team to support the NTSB. Now, we know, and as you've been showing, that plane still on the runway, and this is still an active scene here as they investigate what went wrong. But let's get you to that video so you can see for yourselves the damage here. We're talking about severe damage to this aircraft that was operated by Jazz. It was an Air Canada plane. Police have now confirmed 2 people have died, the pilot and the co-pilot. Their identities have not been released pending family notification. 41 passengers, including crew members, were transported to the hospital, and my colleague Robert Moses is at the hospital. He'll have a report right after me. But you can see the crushed nose of that airplane pointing upward, tilting in the air, and the rear section of the plane dropped down on its side. According to the Port
Authority. The Air Canada flight collided with the Port Authority emergency vehicle after landing here at LaGuardia Airport at around 11:40 last night. The incident happening on runway 4. Authorities say the plane struck a Port Authority aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle that was responding to a separate incident at the time. Air Canada says Flight 8646 was coming from Montreal. 72 passengers and 4 crew members were on board. You're about to hear the audio from air traffic control, the moment leading to that deadly crash.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower.
Truck 1 and Company.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, crossing 4 at Delta.
Frontier 4195, stop there, please. Stop.
And you hear there, stop, but they could not stop. Air Canada has set up a phone line for family and friends. That number there on your screen. Let's talk a little bit about that emergency vehicle. We know it was responding to another aircraft, to a United plane that the pilot had called in an odor that he was smelling. We know 2 officers were inside that fire truck, a sergeant and a Port Authority police officer, both taken to the hospital and listed in stable condition. You're about to hear now from the Port Authority Executive Director, Catherine Garcia.
It is anticipated that the airport will be closed at least until 2 p.m. this afternoon to facilitate the investigation by NTSB, which has already begun to be on site.
Now, we did ask Catherine Garcia, what is the procedure, the protocol for an emergency vehicle to be on the runway? So she tells us that they have to get clearance from the control tower before entering the runway. So clearly all this under investigation. We know that LaGuardia Airport remains closed until at least 2 p.m. That could be extended depending on the needs of investigators who are here on the scene. Of course, we are on top of this, Rosanna, and we'll bring you any development as this comes to us. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Jason Ambrosi, president of the Airline Pilots Association, the world's largest airline pilots union, is now releasing a statement saying that the pilots who died in this collision dedicated their careers to the safe transport of passengers, and that their people are now investigating as well. It is a tragic situation. Here's another look at that plane. That whole front area of the plane completely disintegrated. It is sitting on the runway as the National Transportation Safety Board investigates. We know dozens of passengers have been treated for injuries. We're hearing reports that a flight attendant whose back was towards the pilot's door somehow was ejected from the plane, was found outside of the plane on the tarmac in the seat, and is okay this morning. Those are the reports we're hearing. And Robert Moses, I know you're outside Elmhurst Hospital. If that is true, that is a miracle.
It sure is, Rosanna. And, you know, the executive director, Catherine Garcia, was asked about that report. She said she can't confirm that. But, yes, if that is indeed true, it is miraculous, and we expect perhaps the National Transportation Safety Board to be able to fill in some of those details when we hear from them later on. We know already from Jess that they are on the ground. We are about 2 miles away from LaGuardia at Elmhurst Hospital. This is one of the 2 hospitals that received patients. New York Presbyterian Queens is the other. And these 2 hospitals are both level 1 trauma centers, which is to say they are equipped to handle the most severe injuries you can imagine. And there were some serious injuries as a result of this impact. 41 passengers, crew members, and those Port Authority officers in the fire truck were taken to these 2 hospitals after the crash. Most of them, 32, have since been released, so their injuries were minor enough for them to be sent home. However, some of those who remain hospitalized this morning did suffer serious injuries, and they are receiving treatment for them. We heard from a passenger who was on board that plane. He tells us about some of the injuries that he observed among those around him.
There was so many people that banged their head and had concussions, and I mean, I remember looking behind me after we got off, and there was some guy with just the blood coming off of his face, and it was a lot of people got pretty hurt.
And if you've ever flown, and so many of us have, you know that many passengers, as soon as those wheels hit the ground, they reach for their seatbelt and take the seatbelt off, which is why flight attendants and pilots say repeatedly, leave your seatbelt on until we are parked safely at the gate. A lot can happen from the time a plane lands until the time it reaches the gate, and this story is a stark reminder of that. We're still waiting for a patient breakdown between the two hospitals. I've reached out to both Elmhurst and New York Presbyterian Queens. I've yet to hear from Elmhurst. New York Presbyterian Queens tells me that they cannot comment because of patient privacy. But to summarize what we know, 41 people all told. That includes crew, along with passengers, and those two people who were on board that Port Authority fire truck have been hospitalized. 32 of them released from the hospital. Some of the remaining 9 are still being treated for serious injuries. Live at Elmhurst this morning, Rosanna, back to you.
All right, thank you for keeping a close eye out for us, Robert. Meanwhile, with LaGuardia Airport closed and the rain that we were dealing with, this morning's commute may be a little tricky. Inez Rosales keeping an eye on things for us this morning. What do you know?
That's right, Rosanna. As we've been talking about it all morning, LaGuardia will be closed until 2 o'clock. Now, as far as the roads heading towards LaGuardia, they did close the exits at one point during the overnight. They reopened everything up around 5:30 this morning. This is exit 7 that you're seeing heading towards the airport there, and you can see the Grand Central moving along without any problems. Now, Newark Airport did have a ground stop for another reason. There was smoke in one of the towers, so they just moved everyone to a different tower. Now, that ground stop has been lifted. No delays there, but right now everything's moving. If you're using this as an alternate airport in New Jersey Turnpike, a little slow northbound. I am hearing about delays on 1 and 9. If you're heading towards JFK, not too bad. Things are moving along here by the Belts Parkway on the Van Wyck there southbound. And then as far as your commute heading into the city from New Jersey, that's been messy. The off-ramp from the George Washington Bridge, upper and lower levels, heading towards the Harlem River Drive and Amsterdam Avenue has been closed all morning since 4:30 for an accident investigation. So that's putting the GWB upper level at a 75-minute delay, lower level 60 minutes. The Lincoln Tunnel, you could see that's all jammed up inbound. It's about 45 to 50 heading into the city this morning. If you want to go for the Holland Tunnel, it's about the same from both approaches. New Jersey Transit in and out of Penn Station has a 20-minute delay. Everything else running on or close. Rosanna, back to you.
All right, thank you so much. Well, it looked like it was raining hard, very hard this morning and overnight. But Mike Woods, it looks like that rain cleared out a little bit.
A little bit better for us now here, Rosanna. But yeah, at times that rain was really coming down. But I do want to do a little flashback as to what was happening last night at the time of the accident, the incident out at LaGuardia. We had some moderate to even heavier showers around 9 to 10 o'clock, but then it kind of backed off around 11:30 or so. So still some light rain was in the area, as well as a little bit of fog in the area too, but nothing that popped up a dense fog advisory. But there's more fog to the north and west of us, so it doesn't look like weather should have had a major impact on what was going on at the airport at that point in time. Now afterward, we had the cold front that's sliding through, and that's why the showers were already breaking out late last night into early this morning. Now the moderate to heavier showers are pushing to the east. It's on the east end of Long Island. Even a few lightning strikes out there just to the south of West Hampton, out to the south of East Hampton as well. We've seen some pretty heavy showers come on by, and perhaps a few isolated lightning strikes. But the metro areas are looking a little bit better now. But look at the rain totals that are coming in from the automated rain gauges. Most of us around a half an inch to an inch of rainfall, and it's mainly from the city and the metro areas up to the north and west that have seen the heavier rain. Down to the south along the Jersey Shore, it's been much lighter if you've seen anything at all. But we need the rainfall, but of course the timing is not great for us here. Temp-wise, it's actually been getting cooler because that colder air is sinking in along with that cold front, so our temps have been dropping. 41 Central Park, 42 degrees out at Newark, now 36 degrees for you in Monticello, and 32 in Poughkeepsie, where there might even be a few wet snowflakes that have been flying there. The north wind's coming by at around 5 to 15 miles per hour. We'll continue to bring that north wind in, which also has the drier air, which will break up the cloud cover in the showers a little deeper into the morning and into the afternoon. The showers, for the most part, should be shutting down. A few isolated, patchy rain showers passing by, not out of the question as we head into the afternoon, but for the most part, the heavier rain's coming to a close. Look how cold it is tomorrow morning. We drop down into the upper 20s to low 30s. Feels like winter's back again for you tomorrow, but it's a temporary condition because your highs in the afternoon should get back up into the upper 40s tomorrow, and it's drier for your Tuesday and Wednesday. At least we have the sunshine trying to make a comeback at that time. But today, it's that chilly morning rain that's just about on a wrap. There are more rain showers at the end of the work week. Next weekend looks pretty good for us here at this point. Rosanna, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for that update, Mike. Let's talk about that deadly crash at LaGuardia Airport. We're getting new information and delays, cancellations, flights diverted, all happening as a result of the shutdown at LaGuardia Airport. Newark was shut down a little bit this morning. It is now reopened. Next, we're speaking with the former Navy pilot and now aviation attorney for more insight on this crash. Good Day New York is coming right back. Thank you so much for tuning us in this morning on Good Day New York, and we've got you covered. Following breaking news all morning long at LaGuardia Airport, 2 pilots killed after an Air Canada plane collided with a Port Authority fire truck on the runway. The airport is closed till at least 2 o'clock this afternoon. 41 passengers and crew members taken to the hospital. There were 72 passengers and 4 crew members on board that flight. 2 Port Authority officers were injured. They are in stable condition. Air Canada has set up a phone line for family and friends to get information about passengers. Joining us right now, Daniel Rose. He is a former Navy pilot and now aviation attorney at the firm of Crindler and Crindler. Dan, nice to have you on Good Day New York.
Thanks, Roseanne.
So, you know, we've been hearing about close calls, near misses for the last few months at the airport. What's going on?
Yeah, well, it just hasn't been the last few months. It's really been, years going back now. We've heard near misses in the tri-state area. They're all over the country. We just recently had the mid-air collision down in Washington, D.C. between a helicopter and another CRJ commuter jet like this one. So it has been an ongoing problem for a while. A lot of people, including our firm, have raised the flag about this for decades, and something really needs to be done at this point.
Tell us about your firm and why you would raise a flag. What do you know that you would raise a flag for?
Well, we deal with aviation cases all the time, and for decades now. We've been doing it for 75 years, and we can see the progression of safety in virtually all areas except for this one soft underbelly, if you will, in aviation safety, which is the human link here. Pilots are better trained. There's crew coordination. There's redundancy. The aircraft are redundant. There's a lot of cross checks. But when it comes to air traffic controllers, and those ladies and gentlemen do a great job. They try their best. They are oftentimes overworked, understaffed, and under-equipped. The technology, there's some technology out there, but it's not at the level of, AI or anything like that. So that is the weak spot in the aviation chain of events, of the system of aviation safety, which still remains overall extremely safe and probably the best in the world. But there's obviously room to improve here, and this tragic event points it out.
So, Dan, when did you notice, or when did your firm notice that there was a weak link in the travel world? I mean, we started to hear about, meltdowns at airports. I don't know, was it 8 years ago, 4 years ago, when Secretary Buttigieg, there was one Christmas where people could not, get on flights, and it seemed like things were happening at the airport. When did you notice the weak link?
Boy, it's hard to pinpoint a specific event. They're really just a combination of actual midair collisions and near misses, and it doesn't have to be in the air; it can be on the ground, like this was. It's going back decades. Really commensurate with aviation safety improving in all other areas, which was really, starting in the 90s, it became, really focused on the remaining safety issue, which was, this soft spot in the aviation system of air traffic control, being responsible ultimately for keeping these planes apart, whether on the ground or in the air. And that's what unfortunately came to fruition last night. So,
Dan, will your firm get involved in the investigation or the aftermath of this crash?
Well, it's too early to tell, and our thoughts are with the families and the victims. But we've been involved in aviation accidents like this for 75 years, and we're often the leading law firm involved. So we would expect to do so, but really the important thing now is to focus on the families and their loved ones and get to the bottom of what happened. I don't think usually families want to know the facts, the answers, what happened, what went wrong, who's responsible. Just even preliminarily, well, it's hard to, you really don't know all the facts now. You don't know exactly who said what at what point. And what each aircraft was, what the aircraft was supposed to do, what the fire truck was supposed to do exactly. But based on the information that's out there, it seems that, this is an air traffic control, certainly a part or a large part of the issue. And we conduct our investigation in parallel with the NTSB, and we will get the answers for the families that we have the honor to represent. So.
Well, thank you so much for your perspective this morning, Daniel Rose. Appreciate you talking to us. All right, so obviously we're talking about that terrible crash at LaGuardia Airport, but obviously you know what this means. Higher traffic at the other airports in our area, like Newark and JFK. We know ICE agents will also be on the ground at Kennedy Airport today as frustrations mount for people who are waiting hours in TSA lines because of staff shortages. Briella Tomasetti keeping an eye on that for us this morning. Briella, what are you hearing?
Well, Rosanna, it's sort of a double whammy situation because you have people scrambling for other options due to this fatal collision. You also have those long TSA lines because of the shortage due to the Homeland Security shutdown. And again, it was already expected to be a busy day at our local airports before the collision happened. JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark are 3 of the 14 high-volume U.S. airports where White House border czar Tom Homan announced that ICE agents would be deployed beginning today. A handful of federal immigration agents have already been spotted at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta. The chaos started over the weekend with long lines snaking through LaGuardia and wait times climbing to 3 hours due to the ongoing Homeland Security shutdown and TSA shortage. But travel issues surged after that Air Canada passenger jet collided with a Port Authority vehicle at LaGuardia late last night. We have video from one person who was supposed to fly out of LaGuardia this morning but changed their flight to JFK. The airport is visibly mobbed with security lines backing up all the way through Terminal 8. That's likely going to be the situation anywhere you go. We also have reaction from frustrated passengers caught up in the crosshairs. First, you'll hear from a young woman who was supposed to take off from LaGuardia last night, bound for Columbus, Ohio. She says she sat on the runway for several hours before finding out that the airport was shut down.
My flight was supposed to leave at 8 p.m. and we were stuck in the craziness of the security for about an hour, even with, pre-check and clear and everything. And we finally got through. And then our flight got delayed 1 hour, and then it got delayed another hour. Then we're on the plane finally. We were on the plane for a total of 3 hours waiting on the runway. Someone in the aisle in front of me said, "Everyone look on Twitter, a plane crashed into the fire truck." So then everyone looked, everyone started panicking. The flight attendants weren't really saying much until we all saw, and then they notified us that we had to get off the plane.
We spoke with another family who had a flight scheduled for 8 o'clock last night to Tulsa, Oklahoma. They thought they were doing the right thing by getting to the airport extra early, arriving at LaGuardia at noon. Anticipating long security lines, of course. They say that they switched planes 3 different times before learning about the deadly collision, not from flight staff, but through social media.
Are you aware what happened here with that accident?
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly was told to you guys inside?
Nothing.
Nothing.
That there was an incident.
Just look on your news.
Yeah, look on your phone, basically. Yeah,
what's your plan?
We're going to go to JFK and see what we can get on there.
And now there is that ripple effect for other flights. According to FlightAware, more than 1,000 flights were scheduled to or from LaGuardia Airport today. Well, more than half of them were canceled by 7 o'clock this morning. That situation only expected to escalate. Rosanna, back to you.
And we know lots of people who are trying to get out of town, whether it's spring break, whether it's for work purposes. But the lines, the TSA lines, have been very long at certain airlines. And you mentioned that the ICE, there are some ICE agents out there trying to help alleviate that problem. But Tom Homan, who's the border czar, he has basically said something along the lines like they're not totally trained in looking at the screens to see what's inside your bag, so they can only help so much. But we got you covered. We're getting all the latest information. As soon as we get it in, we're bringing it to you. We'll have more on that deadly plane collision at LaGuardia. Plus, we're taking a breath. We're introducing you to a doctor, Larry Grogan. He is here. He's about to attempt the ultimate fundraiser, running the length of 100 marathons in 100 days across the U.S. It's to help change the narrative on living with Parkinson's. We're going to talk to the doctor when we come right back. You are looking at LaGuardia Airport right now, where you see the whole front of that plane, that Air Canada plane, completely off, dismantled. This is LaGuardia. 2 pilots were killed after a Canadian plane collided with a Port Authority fire truck on the runway last night. The airport still closed, will be closed till at least 2 o'clock this afternoon. 41 people and a crew, they were taken to the hospital. There were 72 passengers, 4 crew members on board that flight, 2 Port Authority officers injured, and they are in stable condition as we speak. Air Canada has set up a phone line for family and friends to get the latest information about their loved ones. We wish everybody the best. And this morning, we're talking about our next guest. He is not just changing the narrative on living with Parkinson's disease. He's on a mission to achieve the impossible, and he's helping others while he's doing it. Dr. Larry Grogan is attempting to run the length of 100 marathons in 100 days, consecutive days, all while raising money to support people living with Parkinson's disease. On top of all that, he's still actively practicing. He's a chiropractor and an acupuncturist. Dr. Larry Grogan, nice to have you here with us on Good Day New York. So when do you take this project on?
Well, we leave tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. from Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. I just want to take a quick second to send my prayers out to the families.
Thank you so much. And by the way, you are taking this on not just for yourself, living with Parkinson's, but for those who can't run, can't move as well as you do. What are the challenges? Are you a little nervous about taking on this challenge?
A little nervous, but I'm encouraged. There's so many friends and family and strangers that have been encouraged by it that I'm believing I can do it with a little help from my friends.
How does this work?
Well, we get up each morning at 9 a.m. We're staying at hotels across the country. We start, like I said, in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, and we go 100 days, 26 miles each day. We stop, bed down, have a nice dinner, and get up and do it again in the morning.
26 miles. That's a New York City marathon every day. Is your body up for something like that? That sounds so grueling.
Well, we'll find out. Check in July 1st, but I think so. I think so. You know, the movement helps. The point that we're wanting to send a message home that movement is medicine, and that activity of being active and living your best life is the best way to combat it, and that each of us has that ability, even if we don't have neurodegenerative diseases, to take responsibility for their health and move.
Do you have a way? How do you know where you're going every day? You have somebody saying, this is what I put on Google Maps, and you're going straight, make a left at this.
It's funny you said that, because yesterday afternoon we did a test drive, and by all accounts, we may not make it. I'm kidding, of course.
Oh, stop it, doctor. Okay, so what did you find out yesterday?
We found out that it's hard to interpret the maps, but we'll make it. We'll just keep moving and putting one foot in front of the other, and we're going to make it fun. I'm looking forward to it, meet people all along the way, and we've had encouraging notes from people all around the world saying thank you for doing it, for encouraging us. So it's all positive.
Is it? Do you meditate? Like what goes through your mind as you're running?
I sing songs. I tap dance. I get a little crazy. If I see a helicopter overhead, I imagine I'm winning the New York City Marathon. It takes a little bit of crazy to do it, but we're having fun.
Dr. Grogan, if people want to support you, where can they find you?
Davis Finney Foundation, dpf.org/Run Larry Run, and we appreciate every donation.
Well, we're rooting for you. Thank you so much for sharing this morning with us. All the best.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you July.
July 1st.
July 1st. I know you can do it, Dr. Grogan. All the best to you.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, we're going to check in at LaGuardia Airport, because we are still learning more information with that breaking news. The airport's shut down until at least 2 o'clock this afternoon after a plane collided with a fire truck. Both pilots on board were killed. We've got the latest information for you right after this break. We have got you covered this morning. We're talking about that deadly breaking news. A look at the mangled plane still sitting on the runway at LaGuardia Airport this morning. It collided with a Port Authority fire truck just before midnight, and the wreckage, there is no cockpit there. That's from last night, and you can see the front nose of the plane completely decimated. And LaGuardia Airport shut down. No flights in or out this morning till at least 2 o'clock this afternoon as the NTSB investigates what caused all of this. We appreciate you staying with us this morning on Good Day New York as we get in dribs and drabs of information on this breaking news at one of the busiest airports in the country. I'm Rosanna Scotto. Our team is on top of every angle for you this morning. Jessica Formosa, let's talk to you first. What exactly happened?
Morning, Rosanna. I can tell you this is all under investigation. NTSB investigators already on scene, more on the way. And we also know the FAA is also sending in a team. Let me step out of the way here so you guys can take a live look right there. That's the aircraft, Air Canada. You see the wreckage, and then you can also see that fire truck that was involved, also upside down on its side there. And you see all the debris across the runway here. This was an Air Canada plane operated by Jazz. Police have now confirmed 2 people have died. The pilot and co-pilot, their identities have not been released pending family notification. We know 41 passengers, including crew members, were transported to the hospital. We'll have more on their conditions in just a few minutes with my colleague Robert Moses. But you see the crushed nose of the airplane pointing upward, tilting in the air, and the rear section of the plane just dropped down on its side. According to the Port Authority, the Air Canada flight collided with a Port Authority emergency vehicle after landing here at LaGuardia Airport around 11:40 last night. The incident happening on runway 4. Authorities say the plane struck a Port Authority aircraft with a rescue and firefighting vehicle that was responding to a separate incident at the time. Air Canada says flight 8646 was coming from Montreal. 72 passengers and 4 crew members were on board. You're about to hear the audio from air traffic control, the moment leading to this deadly crash.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower.
Truck 1 and Company.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, crossing 4 at Delta.
Frontier 4195, stop there, please. Stop.
Now, Air Canada set up a phone line for family and friends to get information. That number there on your screen. Let's talk a little bit about that emergency vehicle, that fire truck that was responding. We know it was responding to another airplane, a United flight. The pilot there calling in an odor. We know 2 officers were inside that emergency vehicle, a sergeant and a Port Authority police officer. They were taken to the hospital and are listed in stable condition. You're about to hear from a passenger who was on that flight.
We were coming in pretty fast. It was like a regular flight, like always. But as we were arriving, we came down really hard, and then we stopped really quickly, and then in about 2 seconds later, we just had an absolute slam. Everybody was flying everywhere. I mean, the plane started veering off left and right, and there was, it was chaos. I mean, it didn't feel like there was anybody in control of anything, and. But looking back on it, the pilot did the best thing he could. He hit the brakes as hard as he could, and he knew it was going to be at the cost of his own life.
And we did ask the executive director of the Port Authority, what is the procedure, the protocol for an emergency vehicle to be on the runway? She tells us they have to get clearance from the control tower in order to be on the runway. So this all clearly under investigation. What went wrong? That's the question that everyone wants answers to. What happened here last night? Of course, again, Rosanna, investigators here on the scene. As you see over my shoulder here, you can see the wreckage. I'm going to have Lawrence push in here because just really when you see this up and close, you can see the damage, the wreckage, the nose of this plane. It's just really, you just cannot believe that an accident like this, a collision, happened here at the airport. We know, again, 2 people dead, the pilot and co-pilot, and as for the airport here, LaGuardia, it is closed until at least 2 o'clock. Of course, that could change as investigators, if they need more time to gather evidence and go through this wreckage. So my advice is, if you're heading to the airport, make sure you check in with your carrier before heading out. Rosanna?
Thank you so much, Jessica. It's so weird because I'm getting information. By the way, 34 years ago to the day, there was another crash at LaGuardia Airport. It was a U.S. Air Flight 405, and apparently it crashed in poor weather in a partially inverted position in Flushing Bay shortly after liftoff from LaGuardia. To the day. Isn't that it's crazy and uncanny that happened at the same time. Anyway,
yes.
Anyway, we'll get more information on what happened years ago, but we're keeping our sights on what's happening right now at LaGuardia Airport. We talked about those pilots, as Jessica mentioned. Those pilots on board the Air Canada flight are dead. We know there were 72 passengers on board that plane as well. Some of them taken to the hospital, Elmhurst Hospital Center in Queens, for treatment. Some were released. Robert Moses, what do you know this morning?
Yeah, Rosanna, we're about 2 miles or so away from the airport where Jess was just speaking to you. And I want to get right to a new image that Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy posted on X. And this is another view of that nose that is now gone, completely sheared off. A testament to just how violent this collision truly was. Patients from this crash went to 2 different hospitals, Elmhurst and New York Presbyterian Queens. Both hospitals are level 1 trauma centers, which means that they're equipped to handle the most severe injuries you can imagine. All told, 41 people. That includes passenger crew members and those 2 Port Authority officers who were in the truck. They were taken to those 2 hospitals. Most, 32, have since been released. However, some of those who remain hospitalized at this hour are still getting treatment for those injuries. The Executive Director of the Port Authority, Catherine Garcia, spoke to us this morning about their injuries.
Initial numbers indicate that 41 passengers and crew were transported to the hospital, as well as the ARF officers. At this time, we understand that 32 have been released, but there are also serious injuries.
And Rosanna, I've now heard from spokespeople for both hospitals, both Elmhurst and New York Presbyterian. Neither would divulge any information about how many patients are at the hospitals or what the conditions of those patients are this morning. But suffice it to say, according to the Port Authority, 32 of the 41 who were initially hospitalized have been released. Of the remaining, some are being treated for serious injuries. And I've been saying this throughout the morning. I think it bears repeating, though. This is another reminder to keep your seatbelt fastened until your plane is parked at the gate. Just because those wheels hit the runway does not mean you're out of the woods, and clearly we saw that the dangers can exist from the time you land to the time you get to the gate. Rosanna, back to you.
All right, Robert, great advice. We, assuming most of those people on board that flight had their seatbelts on, so we'll be finding out more information, I'm sure, Robert. Thank you so much. All right, commuting LaGuardia Airport this morning is going to be very tricky. Inez Rosales. So we know LaGuardia is closed at this point. Probably won't open till 2.
Yes.
Now, what happens if you have a flight at like 4 o'clock?
You know what? That's a good question. Hopefully, you know what, people can get out there 2 o'clock. The airport is open, the terminals. Whether or not you can get through security, that's another question, and you can just hang out at the airport. But if you plan to go, they do have the exits open. At one point, they closed the exits during the overnight. This is exit 7 that you're seeing off the Grand Central Parkway, heading westbound by LaGuardia there. So you can see the Grand Central itself is moving slow. But if you have a flight later on, just keep an eye on it and make sure you get updates to know when you can head over to the airport and make sure you get through security. As far as the rest of your travels, things are messy out there. George Washington Bridge at 75 minutes on the upper level, 60 lower level. That's because of an accident over here on the Harlem River Drive, Amsterdam Avenue exit 2 there. Looks like they're about to reopen the roadway. We had a car here. Looks like it crashed into the side barrier there. This is around 4:30 this morning, so it should reopen soon. But in the meantime, you have those delays and no access to the Harlem River Drive or Amsterdam Avenue. At the Lincoln Tunnel, it's about 30 to 40 minutes heading inbound. The Holland Tunnel, about the same from each approach. New Jersey Transit in and out of Penn Station. There's a 20-minute delay due to earlier Amtrak issues. Everything else running on or close. Rosanna, back to you.
All right, thank you so much. Still ahead, former MMA fighter Alberto Crane has a new book out talking about one of his toughest fights, battling MS. He's here to discuss his journey. Hello, Alberto. Nice to see you. We're going to talk coming up. All righty, 9:46. We're following breaking news at LaGuardia Airport. 2 pilots killed after an Air Canada plane collided with a Port Authority fire truck on the runway. The airport's still closed, probably will be closed until 2 o'clock this afternoon. 41 people on board and some crew members were taken to the hospital. There were a total of 72 passengers and 4 crew members on board this flight. 2 Port Authority officers were injured. They were in that fire truck. They are in stable condition this morning. Air Canada has set up a phone line for family and friends to get more information about their loved ones, and most of them have been released from the hospital this morning, which is great news. But we are keeping an eye on LaGuardia as the NTSB is there checking things out. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy there as well this morning. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to inspire you. We have a former MMA fighter, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu trainer, Alberto Crane. He has traveled the world, become a master of his craft, all while fighting multiple sclerosis. He's sharing a story, looking to help others become their best self with his new memoir. It's called All-In Lessons on and Off the Mat. The book releases tomorrow, available now for pre-order. Nice to meet you, Alberto.
Thank you so much for
How long
having
have
me
you been working on this book?
It's been about 5 years process.
Wow. What's it been like to kind of revisit the first moments when you realize that, you know, that you have MS?
You know, I think going back to the book, it's like you realize all the things you've gone through in your life, you know, besides the MS, and so it made me realize like what I'm capable of, and I think really helped me understand myself better and then make the right choices, after that.
You were in a real physical occupation. How has being diagnosed with MS changed that, or has it?
I think I've decided or I figured it out kind of, that less is more, the number one killer for everybody is stress. And so just dealing with stress, when I have a lot of stress, I don't do well. So if anything, MS has been a blessing in disguise because it's helped me or shown me that, less is more, but, pushing into stress or pushing too much is not the way, so it's forced me to slow down.
Alberto, when did you realize that you had MS? What signs did you get?
So I started to feel numbness when I was about 30 years old, and when I was cutting weight for a fight, I just thought it was, all the years of stress, adding up, right?
You thought that maybe you had one too many hits, right?
Right. And then every 5 years in Nevada and California, they make you do a brain MRI. And so after my second brain MRI, they found these lesions and they grew. And then they called me in the office. They didn't let me fight. They didn't give me my fight license. And then they said, hey, I think you have MS. They did all the tests, and then they confirmed it. Hey, you have MS. And kind of treated me like my life was over.
Wow. How were you able to mentally handle that diagnosis?
I think because of my background, right, you kind of don't accept defeat, right, when you're a fighter, when you're in the martial arts, So I think that helped me. And I think I had a choice to make, right? Do I fight? Do I accept, right? And so I chose to fight and to, face and do everything that I can do.
And your family was very supportive?
I have an amazing family, my wife, my kids, and if there's any motivation, that's everything.
I know that you have some things that you want to share with your audience who reads this book, All In, out tomorrow, but available for pre-order today. You want viewers to remember things like you don't have to give everything up that you have, right? You can find new roads to having a very fulfilling life.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's always a way. There's always, if you can't walk, you can crawl. If you can't, there's always something you can do. And I think that's also another choice that I've made and had to make.
The other thing you talk about is using your failures as fuel.
I just shared a Michael Jordan post, and there's no success without failures. And so just embracing the failures. And if it's one thing that martial arts and fighting has given me, is that embracing that failure. And because of that, I've won because of those failures. And so I'm taking the same thing with this fight against MS.
Well, we're rooting for you, Alberto Crane. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing the book. It's called All In. You can pre-order. It's out tomorrow. It's a beautiful stories of lessons on and off the mat. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much.
All right, coming up, we're going to check back in at LaGuardia Airport. We have that breaking news. The airport's still shut down till at least 2 o'clock this afternoon. A plane collided with a fire truck on the runway. Both pilots on board were killed. We've got the very latest from the airport as the National Transportation Safety Board investigates. We'll have that when we come right back on Good Day.
Wow. Stop and Shop has lower chicken prices.
Yeah, or as we like to say, more cluck for your buck.
Or itching for some chicken.
Or more chicken for your scratch.
Are we doing this?
Oh, I can do this all day.
More poultry for your pennies.
More chicken tenders for your legal tender.
More wings for your tings.
Mm-hmm.
More cockadoodle for your dinero. Woo! That was good.
Cluck for your buck. Cluck for your buck. With lower chicken prices, good things are in store at Stop and Shop.
We are staying on top of that breaking news this morning. The NTSB is trying to figure out what caused a plane to crash. You can kind of see it right now with there's a lot of raindrops on the lens of our camera, but a plane collided with the Port Authority fire truck on the runway at LaGuardia late last night. Jessica Formoso has been there all morning, keeping us updated on the latest information. Is it raining again, Jessica?
It is, Rosanna. It is raining again here at the airport. Look, we know that right now NTSB investigators are on scene, and we're told that more are on the way. We also know the FAA is also sending a team. Let me just step out of the way here so you guys can take a live look here. That is the plane involved in this collision there. You see your Air Canada plane there, the wreckage, the damage. If you take a look, there is no cockpit. And then on the other side of it, I'm going to have Lawrence also zoom in to the fire truck that was involved. You can see the wreckage there in the corner, the fire truck on the side. I mean, the impact, you can only imagine the damage here. Still on the runway, investigators here, you see all those flashing lights. This was an Air Canada plane operated by Jazz. Police have now confirmed 2 people have died. The pilot and co-pilot, their identities have not been released pending family notification. We know 41 passengers, including crew members, were transported to the hospital. And you see here, I mean, when you see this up close, the damage, the wreckage, you see the crushed nose of the airplane just pointing upward and tilting in the air, and that rear section of the plane just dropped down on its side. According to the Port Authority, the Air Canada flight collided with a Port Authority emergency vehicle that was right after landing here at LaGuardia at around 11:40 last night. The incident happening on runway 4. Authorities say the plane struck a Port Authority aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle that was responding to a separate incident at the time. Air Canada says flight 8646 was coming from Montreal. 72 passengers and 4 crew members were on board. You're about to hear the audio from the air traffic control, the moment leading to this deadly crash.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower.
Truck 1 and Company.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, crossing 4 at Delta.
Frontier 4195, stop there, please. Stop.
So many questions, Rosanna, this morning. What went wrong? That's what everybody wants to know. The airport closed until at least 2 p.m. That could be extended depending on the investigators and their needs. Back to you.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate that report, Jessica. Fox 5 staying on top of this breaking news this morning. Good Day, New York, coming right back with more on this breaking news coverage of the tragedy at LaGuardia Airport, right here on Good Day, New York.
And we are staying on top of breaking news this morning. 2 people.
It's Monday, March 23rd. I'm Rosanna Scotto.
And I'm Dan Bowens. We appreciate you joining us this morning. We want to get right to Jessica Formoso, who is at LaGuardia this morning with the very latest for us. Jessica, what are you learning?
Good morning, Dan and Rosanna. We now know that the NTSB investigators are on scene and they are investigating as we speak. More investigators are on the way. Let me step out of the way here so you guys can take a look here. We're going to zoom in for you. That is Air Canada, the plane involved in this deadly crash. You can see there the wreckage, the damage. If you look close, there is no cockpit. And then on the other side there, you're going to see, as we pan over, the fire truck that was involved on its side, the debris scattered throughout the runway. Just really, when you look at this, it's just incredible. And really, you're asking yourself, how did this happen? And how did this happen here at the airport? This here is Air Canada, a plane that was operated by Jazz. Police telling us that the pilot and co-pilot are dead. Their identities have not been released pending family notification. We know 41 passengers, including crew members, were transported to the hospital. You see it here, the crushed nose of the airplane pointing upward and tilting in the air, and then the rear section of this plane just dropped down on the side on the runway. According to the Port Authority, the Air Canada flight collided with a Port Authority emergency vehicle after landing here at LaGuardia around 11:40 p.m. The incident happening on runway 4. Authorities say the plane struck a Port Authority aircraft, a rescue and firefighting truck that was responding to a separate incident at the time. Air Canada says flight 8646 was coming from Montreal. 72 passengers and 4 crew members were on board. You're about to hear the audio from air traffic control, the moment leading to this deadly crash.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower.
Truck 1 and Company.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, crossing 4 at Delta.
Frontier 4195, stop there, please. Stop.
And Air Canada has set up a phone line for family and friends. You see that number there on your screen. Now let's talk about that emergency vehicle that was responding. We know it was responding to another aircraft, to a United flight. The pilot there calling in an odor, saying that there was an odor on his flight, and that is why that fire truck was responding. We know 2 officers were inside that emergency vehicle, a sergeant and a Port Authority police officer, both taken to the hospital in stable condition. You're about to hear from Catherine Garcia. She's the executive director of the Port Authority.
It is anticipated that the airport will be closed at least until 2 p.m. this afternoon to facilitate the investigation by NTSB, which has already begun to be on site.
Now, we did ask her what is the procedure, the protocol as to these emergency vehicles on the runway, and she tells us they have to get clearance from the control tower in order to enter the runway. So now the question here this morning is what happened? Did they have the clearance? Did they not have the clearance? Did they both have the clearance? Clearly, that is all under investigation as we speak. As for the airport, as you see behind me here, no in or out of flights out of LaGuardia until at least 2 p.m. The investigators here gathering evidence and going through this wreckage, which, by the way, when you look at it, it's really just jaw-dropping. Dan and Rosanna, back to both of you.
All right. Thank you very much, Jessica. Yeah, you can see that behind you there, those images that we've been seeing this morning. And we do know that 2 Port Authority officers were injured in the collision and 41 passengers were all transported to the hospital.
Robert Moses outside Elmhurst Hospital. What's going on? What's the latest, Robert?
Yeah, Rosanna and Dan, I just want to say off the top that we're monitoring comments from President Donald Trump as we speak. If he says anything about this crash, about what happened about 2 miles away from where we are, we will certainly let you know. But we are at Elmhurst Hospital, one of the 2 hospitals where patients were brought. And I want to show you an incredible view of the plane. This image comes to us from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, and it shows the nose completely sheared off. In addition to Elmhurst Hospital, patients were also brought to New York Presbyterian Queens, we're told 41 passengers hospitalized. That includes passengers, crew members, as well as the 2 Port Authority officers who were in that truck when the plane hit it. Most of the 41 people, 32 to be exact, according to the Port Authority, have already been released. Some of those who are still hospitalized this morning are still being treated for their injuries. I've reached out to both hospitals, both New York Presbyterian and Elmhurst, for a patient breakdown. Both hospitals say they cannot provide any further details. We did hear from a passenger who was on board that plane who told us about some of the injuries that he himself observed.
There was so many people that banged their head and had concussions, and I mean, I remember looking behind me after we got off, and there was some guy with just the blood coming off of his face, and it was a lot of people got pretty hurt.
Experts we've been speaking to this morning say that that plane could have been going 30, 40 miles an hour whenever it collided with that truck. So the impact, as you can imagine, very great. And injuries would have been exacerbated if any of those passengers had unbuckled their seatbelts. We're not sure if that was the case, but if it was, their injuries certainly would have been more serious. Again, still waiting for a patient breakdown because of patient privacy laws. Both of the hospitals, both Elmhurst and New York Presbyterian Queens, have been declining to release any further information, but we know that some of the 9 who remain hospitalized are being treated for serious injuries. If we learn anything more, we'll pass it along right away. Dan, Rosanna, back to you.
You know, when you look at that plane, Robert and Dan, and you see the front part of that plane, I mean, it is completely sheared off, decimated. Yeah. Anybody who was near that had to feel some kind of impact.
Yeah, and I think when Robert, I don't know if you had heard those reports or saw the reports about the flight attendant who was strapped into her seat, and what JP Tristani told us, aviation expert, that looked like her seat was up against where you would see the pilots in the cockpit, and when it got sheared off, it sort of took the wall off from right behind her, and maybe she fell out, but was still strapped in. I mean, what did you hear throughout the course of the morning about that report of that flight attendant strapped in her seat?
Yeah, the Port Authority Executive Director, Catherine Garcia, was asked about that this morning, and she paused for a couple seconds and then said she couldn't confirm that. Read into that what you will. But clearly, that flight attendant or any flight attendant sitting in the jump seat abutting the cockpit would have been inches away from the worst of this impact. And so the fact, if that turns out to be true, if she was ejected and if she did manage to survive, that is a miracle. And it's also a testament to how important those seatbelts are. Keeping people fastened in those seats during this impact. You know, we always hear from the flight crew and pilots, stay seated, keep your seatbelts fastened until we're safely parked at the gate. And this is a reminder of how important that advice really is. It's not just throwaway advice. It's not just advice that the FAA requires the flight crew to repeat on every flight. It's so important, and potentially could have saved lives on this plane.
Could have saved lives for sure, Robert. Thank you very much.
All right. Meanwhile, as we mentioned, LaGuardia Airport closed right now. The rain coming down. This morning's commute a little tricky.
That's right. We want to check in with Inez Rosales. Inez, you were watching earlier with the roads out there as well.
That's right. Yeah, here's a look at the Grand Central Parkway over by LaGuardia, moving slow westbound. With this kind of weather, that's what you want. And this is exit 7 heading towards LaGuardia Airport. So the exits at one point during the overnight were closed. Now they're all reopened, but really no one's going to the airport since it'll be closed until 2 o'clock. If you're heading towards JFK, you do have delays right now. If you're catching another flight from there, traffic's slow on the Van Wyck southbound heading towards the airport. Newark Airport does have delays. A little tough to see, but there are some delays at the airports. And the New Jersey Turnpike moving better than before. They did have exit exiting delays heading towards 78. 109 does have some exiting delays, I'm hearing. Then the George Washington Bridge heading into the city, that's bumper to bumper. 75 minutes on the upper level, lower level, a 60-minute delay. That's because the exit heading towards the Harlem River Drive, it's a little tough to see with this weather, but that's been closed all morning because of an accident investigation. The accident has been cleared. Looks like they just opened it up. That's Amsterdam Avenue. Here's Harlem River Drive. So all lanes have been reopened. Hopefully that'll help out, ease out those delays at the GWB. But at this point, it's tough to say. Lincoln Tunnel, 45 to 50 inbound. The Holland Tunnel between a 40 and 50-minute delay. New Jersey Transit, 20 minutes in and out of Penn Station this morning. Rosanna and Dan, back to you.
Busy morning out there, Inez. Thank you. And it was somewhat rainy overnight. We want to check in with Mike Woods.
All right, Mike, I know that you were looking over conditions last night.
Right.
About 12 o'clock last night, right?
Right, around 11:30 to 12 o'clock when the incident happened. We did have some light rain in the area. In fact, that's what we're looking at right here. In fact, that rain was fairly heavy leading up to it. Here it is crossing the city, but right around 11:30, it's lighter rain. It's kind of backing off. But it wasn't coming down to the point where it would have been a showstopper where we had to really slow down things at the airports. We also want to consider fog and visibility. The only fog that was a little more substantial was up to the northwest. There was some fog reported at that time at LaGuardia, but it doesn't, again, look like we had anything that would have really called weather to the attention to the table in terms of an incident like that. What's going on right now? Actually, the rain picked up quite a bit in the early morning hours, and it really impacted us in the is still actively having impacts on us with the rain being on top of us, but it's on the lighter side now compared to what we had earlier, but still some light showers over parts of Long Island and also out over into New England, but it is winding down. So far, we've seen about a half an inch to an inch of rain, and from this point forward, we're going to see the rain wind down. Temperatures will be in the lower 40s as we head into the afternoon. A dry few days coming up for you Tuesday and Wednesday, then toward the end of the week, some more rain makes a comeback again here. Dan, Rosanna, over to you.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Just about 10:12 or so here on this Monday morning. Coming up, much more on the breaking news overnight, a plane colliding with a vehicle at LaGuardia.
We're going to have more on everything that we know so far, including the people who were injured. And of course, we have very sad news that the pilot and co-pilot were killed in this crash. Good Day, New York, coming right back.
This is breaking news from Fox Local New York.
Count on. Health First Medicare specialists can help you find a Medicare Advantage plan with the benefits you need now. Plus, we can see if you're eligible for programs that help you save. Have Medicare plus Medicaid? You may qualify for plans with $0 copays for doctors and prescriptions, coverage for a personal care aide, and an OTC Plus card with up to $252 a month for over-the-counter items, healthy foods, and home utilities. To find a plan that makes you happy, call 1-844-550-0810. That's 1-844-550-0810. Health First Medicare Advantage plans, where healthy starts.
He's hypothermic. His pulse is weak.
This has been breaking news from Fox Local New York. We now return you to regularly scheduled programming.
A plane has crashed on the tarmac at LaGuardia. The airport is closed So this Air Canada plane that you're looking at on the left part of your screen, it collided with a Port Authority fire truck. That fire truck was responding to a separate problem, a United Airlines flight that apparently had some problem with odors in the cockpit. The collision happened about 11:40 last night. The plane was coming from Montreal, carrying 72 passengers, 4 crew members. The 2 pilots were killed. 2 Port Authority officers injured, and they are in stable condition.
That's right. LaGuardia Airport is expected to remain closed until at least 2 o'clock this afternoon, so at least another 4 hours or so. The shutdown at LaGuardia is causing more trouble for the surrounding airports as well. Passengers just trying to find some other flights this morning.
Well, it comes on the heels of long waits and delays already happening at TSA lines. Briella Tomasetti, this is spring break time, plus people, they have business trips planned.
People just traveling, whether it's for spring break, for work, or for something else, and they've got to find other options. It was already expected to be a busy day at our local airports before the deadly collision happened. JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark are 3 of the 14 high-volume U.S. airports where White House Borders Tom Homan announced that ICE agents would be deployed beginning today. Passengers, even those not leaving the country, are being advised to arrive at least 4 hours early. The chaos started over the weekend with long lines snaking through LaGuardia and wait times climbing to 3 hours due to the ongoing Homeland Security shutdown and TSA shortage. Travel issues surged after that Air Canada passenger jet collided with a Port Authority vehicle at LaGuardia late last night. Now, some flights were diverted to JFK, where crowds filled the terminals and travelers waited in long lines. We have reaction from frustrated passengers caught in the crosshairs of all of this. First, you'll hear from a young woman who was supposed to take off from LaGuardia last night, bound for Columbus, Ohio. She says she sat on the runway for several hours before finally finding out that the airport was shut down.
My flight was supposed to leave at 8 p.m. and we were stuck in the craziness of the security for about an hour, even with, pre-check and clear and everything. And we finally got through. And then our flight got delayed 1 hour, and then it got delayed another hour. Then we're on the plane finally. We were on the plane for a total of 3 hours waiting on the runway. Someone in the aisle in front of me said, "Everyone look on Twitter, a plane crashed into the fire truck." So then everyone looked, everyone started panicking. The flight attendants weren't really saying much until we all saw, and then they notified us that we had to get off the plane.
We spoke with another family who had a flight scheduled for 8 o'clock last night to Tulsa, Oklahoma, but arrived at LaGuardia at noon, anticipating those long security lines like we've been saying. Well, they say they switched planes not 1 or 2, but 3 different times before learning about the deadly collision, not from flight staff, but through social media.
Are you aware what happened here with that accident?
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly was told to you guys inside?
Nothing.
Nothing.
That there was an incident.
Just look on your news.
Yeah, look on your phone, basically. Yeah,
what would you plan?
We're going to go to JFK and see what we can get on there.
According to FlightAware, more than 1,000 flights were scheduled to or from LaGuardia Airport today. 576 of them at last count, or more than half, have been canceled. Rosanna and Dan, I have a cousin that had a flight at LaGuardia at 2 o'clock, and they are now scrambling for other options, trying to get back to Florida, along with, I imagine, thousands of other people.
And dealing with also those long TSA lines. Yep. I notice on Twitter this morning, people are saying that, they have clear or they have TSA pre-check, and they still have to deal with
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they still have
you
to
pay
deal
for
with
it, and it's not making a difference.
Not this morning, and likely more cancellations to come, Briella. We'll keep our eye on it. Thank you very much. Coming up, much more on the collision between an Air Canada plane and a Port Authority vehicle on the runway out at LaGuardia.
We're going to talk with Fox 5's top aviation expert, our own meteorologist, Nick Gregory. You know Nick Gregory flies, right? And Nick Gregory actually is also a teacher. He teaches people how to fly. He's got some great insight on this when we come back. LaGuardia Airport right now, and you can see that Air Canada jet, the front part of it totally
sheared off.
Yep. We've been following breaking news all morning long where this plane collided with a Port Authority fire truck on the runway. The pilot and the co-pilot died, and dozens of people were injured.
The airport is now closed until at least 2 o'clock to allow officials to investigate. We actually want to bring in Fox 5's chief meteorologist, Nick Gregory. He is also a very experienced pilot. Nick, good morning. Nick, can you just talk a little bit about your own aviation experience? You said you're a certified FAA. I missed exactly what you said, but you have a history here with aviation as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been a pilot for almost 44 years now, so hard to think it's been that long, but I'm a pilot for that long. I'm also a flight instructor. I've been teaching for about 31 years. And as you pointed out most recently, the FAA made me what's called an FAA designated pilot examiner. And what my responsibility is, the FAA doesn't have the staffing to give flight tests. So they designate the authority to people they feel have the knowledge and skill to be able to conduct the flight tests on behalf of the FAA. So that's what I do. I give the private instrument, commercial, and the flight instructor tests on behalf of the FAA.
And when you looked at this, the word situational awareness is one I think we're going to hear over and over again. What is your take on that when you see what happened here this morning?
Well, again, at every airport that has a control tower, particularly LaGuardia, which is a very busy airport, so no aircraft can move without a clearance. So you have two controllers on the field there on duty at a particular time, sometimes 3 or 4. So the ground controller moves the aircraft to and from the active runway. After landing, they go to the gate. Before they take off, they go to the runway from the gate. The tower controller's responsibility is the active runways. And this particular night, it's not uncommon that they use 2 runways at the same time just to keep the traffic moving. They were taking off on runway 13 and they were landing on runway 4. But it was one controller handling both those runways. So my speculation, just hearing what happened, he cleared the Air Canada jet flight 646 to land. And after he gave that landing clearance, the fire truck had requested to cross runway 4. And again, you can't move unless you make that request, and the tower has to approve it. And the tower said, Truck 1 and company crossed runway 4. So he cleared him across the runway, and that's where I think he lost situational awareness, either forgetting that he cleared the Air Canada to land. Maybe he thought the Air Canada, he didn't, now remember, this is also at night. So the controller's looking from the tower cab down onto the active runways. So he's just really looking at flashing lights. I mean, they also have ground radar there. They can see where things are located on the surface of the airport. So either he lost situational awareness with the plane, maybe he thought it already landed, or he forgot that he gave it landing clearance. And then when he realized, he regained his situational awareness, and you hear him, shouting out, stop, truck 1, stop, 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 stop. And at that point, the truck was probably already halfway across the runway, thus the collision. And, like I said, they hit it about a little more than halfway down the runway. So the plane was still probably going 50, 60 miles an hour, some of that neighborhood, maybe 40, 50 miles an hour. So that's a high impact speed.
So what I'm wondering, is the airport really busy at that time of night? It was already raining, so they may have already had some delays. They're probably trying to get traffic out. There may have been delays, not just from weather here, but aircraft might have been delayed coming from their destination because of the weather that was moving into the area. Normally, it's not that busy late at night. That usually tends to wind down. But if there were any delays from earlier in the evening, they may have still been pretty busy. And Nick, is it usual that air traffic controllers would be looking at 2 different runways, or would they just have one runway to keep their eye on?
Well, it depends. So if they can, just to keep the traffic moving, they will use 2 intersecting runways to take off on one runway and land aircraft on the other runway, just to keep things going. It depends on the wind. It depends on how many controllers are on duty to sort of monitor the situation. LaGuardia, it's not uncommon that they do that. They'll land one runway and take off on another. Some airports, they have what are called hold short instructions, where they land you on a runway and they ask you to hold short of the intersection. That's optional. You can say unable. You can say I'm not going to do it, or you can acknowledge the clearance and say, okay, I will hold short of that runway. Runway incursions, like what can happen here, are actually really big on the FAA's radar. They are very, they stress how the importance for situational awareness when you're on the ground. As a flight instructor, when I give the flight instructor test to someone who wants to be a flight instructor, that's a required testing item. I must test them on their ability to teach runway incursions and how to avoid them. So it's a big ticket item on the FAA's watch list.
Nick Gregory, very insightful. Thank you so much as we try to make sense of what happened at LaGuardia Airport last night with this collision, deadly collision. Thank you.
Nick, thank you very much.
All right, coming up, we'll have more on what's going on at LaGuardia Airport and as the NTSB investigates.
That's right, the NTSB arriving on scene now, one of their go teams. They're going to start this investigation into just what went wrong. We'll have the very latest when Good Day returns.
Looking at LaGuardia Airport, that Air Canada jet disabled on the tarmac at LaGuardia, and it is a mangled mess in the front. It's sitting on the runway after it collided with a Port Authority fire truck just before midnight.
And here's more of the wreckage as well. No flights in or out of LaGuardia this morning until at least 2 o'clock this afternoon. It's possible it could be even later. The NTSB now on scene investigating the cause of this collision. Let's get right to Jessica Formoso. Jessica, I know you moved your location. Looks like you have you can actually see that plane from where you are. Is that right?
That is correct, Dan. We're up here on the 7th floor of the parking garage, Terminal B here. And let me just step out of the way so you guys can just look for yourselves here. That plane, Air Canada plane on the runway here still after hours. You can see the wreckage, the debris here. There is no cockpit. And then if we pan over, Lawrence will pan over to the fire truck that was involved there. You can see it on its side, debris spread out there as well across the runway. Really, when you look at this, this, it's just unbelievable. You can only imagine what those passengers felt, how scared they were when this all happened. This here is the Air Canada plane that was operated by Jazz. Police tell us that 2 people have died, the pilot and the co-pilot. Their identities have not been released pending family notification. We know 41 passengers, including crew members, were transported to the hospital. My colleague Robert Moses will have more on those passengers and their condition in just a few minutes. But you see it there, the crushed nose of that airplane pointing upward, tilting in the air, and the rear section of the plane just dropped down on its side. According to the Port Authority, the Air Canada flight collided with a Port Authority emergency vehicle after landing here at LaGuardia at around 11:40 last night. The incident happening on runway 4. Authorities say the plane struck a Port Authority aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle that was responding to a separate incident at the time. Air Canada says flight 8646 was coming from Montreal. 72 passengers and 4 crew members were on board. You're about to hear from a passenger who was on that flight.
We were coming in pretty fast. It was like a regular flight, like always. But as we were arriving, we came down really hard, and then we stopped really quickly, and then about 2 seconds later, we just had an absolute slam. Everybody was flying everywhere. I mean, the plane started veering off left and right, and there was, it was chaos. I mean, it didn't feel like there was anybody in control of anything, and. But looking back on it, the pilot did the best thing he could. He hit the brakes as hard as he could, and he knew it was going to be at the cost of his own life.
Oh, God, when you hear that, Air Canada has set up a phone line for family and friends to get information. You see that number there on your screen. Let's talk a little bit about that emergency vehicle, that fire truck that was responding. We know it was responding to another aircraft, to a United plane. The pilot there calling it in because of an odor he was smelling on that flight. Now, 2 officers were inside that emergency vehicle, a sergeant and a Port Authority police officer, both taken to the hospital in stable condition. And as you come to us here live, you're taking a live look at that plane again, really the wreckage, the debris. We know NTSB investigators are on scene, more on the way. And we also know the FAA is also sending a team to help support the NTSB. Now, we did ask the executive director of the Port Authority as to what is protocol, what is procedure when a rescue vehicle comes onto the runway here. She tells us that they have to get clearance from the control tower. So, Dan, Rosanna, the question, what went wrong? Did they have clearance? Did they not have clearance? Did they both have clearance? Clearly, a lot of answers that people want, a lot of questions, a lot of answers that we're trying to get to the bottom of this. But, of course, this is going to be a long investigation. We're hopefully hearing from the NTSB later today. Usually they do brief the media, giving us some information, but this is going to take months to get to the bottom of this investigation. Dan, Rosanna.
Big questions this morning. You're very right, Jessica. Thank you very much. And the investigation into the crash at LaGuardia Airport will no doubt last several months, if not years.
Joining us right now is Greg Feith, a former senior investigator for the National Transportation Safety Board. Nice to have you on Good Day New York.
Thank you.
Can you give us an idea of what the NTSB investigators will do when they get on the scene at LaGuardia Airport?
Well, last night, there were probably a couple of investigators out of the local New York office or in the area of New York who immediately responded, made a presence, and started to coordinate the effort for the GO team, who was supposed to show up early this morning with the team out of Washington. Typically, they will have an organizational meeting where they get all of the folks that are going to be involved in the investigation, to include parties to the investigation, the airline, the aircraft manufacturer, engine manufacturer, the Port Authority, and others. Once they get that, then they'll dispatch the respective teams out to the site. The System Structures Power Plants group will document all of the wreckage itself. The Survival Factors group will go out and look at why people survived and why the 2 pilots perished, and then the type of injuries that the firemen sustained when I think they were ejected from the fire truck during the course of the accident sequence itself. They'll also be mapping all of the information on the runway, things like that. And then, of course, the air traffic control group will then be dispatched to go talk to all of the air traffic controllers that were on duty last night, what their roles and responsibilities were, and then get into more specific information about communication and that kind of thing.
Obviously, there are always lessons to be learned with tragedies like this. You give lectures, safety lectures all over the world. Is there something that comes to mind very quickly when you see something like this?
One of the most important things is the fact that it's all about communication. We saw an issue in the mid-air collision in Washington, D.C. a year and a half ago where there was miscommunication. The question is there a miscommunication issue? When you hear the segments of the air traffic control tape that's been aired most of the night, it sounds like the controller's talking to other aircraft. He may or may not have forgotten that he had cleared the Air Canada flight to land on runway 4 because of workload. And so fatigue, distraction, those are the kinds of human factor elements the board will be looking at. We know also that probably staffing will be a question, of course, because in this controller shortage, was this controller working multiple positions only because of staffing or because arrival rates typically go down at night? They reduce staffing because the arrival rates go down. So these are the kinds of questions that the board's going to be asking throughout the investigation.
And Greg, you're a former senior investigator for the NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board. If you were arriving there right now, what's the first thing you would want to know?
I think right now is really getting clarification from the air traffic controller about the clearance, his situational awareness. That is, was he aware of the entire environment? We know that the fire truck was responding to a United Airlines aircraft that had rejected a takeoff due to a smell or an odor or smoke. And so there was a sense of urgency to get that fire truck across the runway, because on runway 4, it's apparent they were doing the landings. And then on the perpendicular runway, they were apparently having departures. And of course, this United Airlines airplane would have been on that perpendicular runway. So there was probably a sense of urgency to get the fire truck across the runway so that they could respond to this other event. All of these things are going to factor in. And these are the kinds of things that I'd want to know up front so that we can then further pursue the timeline and the workload and distractions, fatigue, and complacency, and a variety of other things.
And Greg, just sort of wrapping up for us here, we always hear about the so-called black box in these planes. Is there anything that you know about with this type of aircraft? Would it have one of those, and could that tell us anything about what happened?
Yeah, the CRJ is a very popular regional airplane. This is the largest version of the CRJ. It weighs about 100,000 pounds. So when you have a lot of that mass slowing down, because the airplane was on the ground, it was decelerating in that first third of the runway. The question is, did the crew see the fire truck as it breached the runway? The cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, but primarily the CVR, will give investigators clue. Did the crew see it? Did they talk to each other? Did they try to take evasive action? The airplane isn't on the center of the runway. It's actually off to the side. Did the aircraft get there because of the impact, or did the pilots try to maneuver the airplane to avoid hitting that fire truck?
All right, Greg Feith, former senior investigator with the NTSB, just great insight for us this morning. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
About 10:40 here. We've been tracking this, obviously, all morning, these last several hours, and we'll have much more on this breaking news at LaGuardia.
Good Day is going to take a quick little break. We'll be right back.
into a Port Authority vehicle on the runway. 2 pilots were killed, dozens of passengers injured.
Fox's Caroline Elliott is on the scene with the latest on the investigation. Caroline, what are you hearing this morning?
Yeah, well, we're hearing a lot of questions on how and why this happened, and a lot of people really pushing for answers in this investigation. Again, it's still very early, but we were able to review the audio from the air traffic control. And when you listen to this audio, you start to get a better idea of what happened leading up to this crash. We can hear in that audio not only the operator frantically saying, "Stop, stop, stop," right before that collision happened, but also right after, you can hear the operator saying, quote, "I made a mistake." And then another person on that line saying, "Hey, you did what you could." Again, all of this, all under investigation right now. We have to imagine investigators combing through this audio very closely right now. We do know in the last hour that Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy did say that he's now on the way to LaGuardia Airport to join investigators in this effort. But as I said, still a lot of questions left unanswered this morning.
Caroline Elliott with Fox News, thank you so much. Live outside of LaGuardia. It's one of the first times we've also heard so that confirmation about what the air traffic controller may have said. Maybe it was my fault. I mean, that's going to be significant.
There is part of that information. I don't know if we have all that audio, but apparently it's floating out there.
It's out there.
And I guess Caroline was able to confirm it because we weren't able to confirm that.
Yeah, we'll take a listen. We'll track that. And we do have breaking information in the deadly plane collision at LaGuardia this morning.
Lisa Evers has been working her sources. All right, Lisa, what do you know?
Okay, so Rowan, Dan, let me just tell you, one of the big pieces of information, too, was that we have confirmed from multiple sources, including one very close to the investigation. And we need to keep in mind that all of this is preliminary, that we're saying, but these are people, one of the sources right there on the ground is that a flight attendant was strapped into her seat and ejected.
We'd heard
and
that
was confirmed. That's why she.
Is she in okay shape?
We don't know
because she was ejected from the plane, right?
There's still the injuries, and there's still varying accounts on the severity of some of the injuries that are inside. But just to give you an idea, you're talking about the audio there. I spoke with other sources. This Port Authority vehicle, we're hearing about it, and we're like, is that a food truck? Was that a baggage truck? What was it? Remember, this is last night. Usually a fairly calm time at LaGuardia Airport. So the vehicle that the Air Canada plane crashed into is called an ARF. It's an Aircraft Rescue Firefighter Vehicle. And these are Port Authority police officers who are trained. They're FAA certified. The Port Authority makes them go recertified twice a year, which is double the national standard, in order to fight fires on planes, because we've seen in a lot of these crashes there's fires.
Big problems, yeah.
So the first job in the fire is to knock the fire down, which is what they call it, and then to create a pathway, for all the.
You're getting some new information coming in right this very second.
To make a pathway for all of the passengers to get out safely. That's their number one job. So the police officers, full police officers, but that have this firefighter training. So that was the vehicle. So apparently what happened, as we're just piecing together from other sources the information of what was going on, this vehicle, this rescue vehicle with these firefighters, the firefighter Port Authority officers, was on its way to deal with a an odor condition that may have been a smoke condition in another plane. And then apparently on the ground, this is a very busy job. You have planes coming and going. You have all the vehicles to supply the planes, and all that.
Right,
so it's air traffic control gave the go-ahead to the rescue fire truck to go ahead to respond to the other thing, but then there was this issue with this other plane, which we don't know, and I'm sure will be under investigation.
I'm sure they're going to be looking at staffing, how long these people were working that day. Were they tired? Was it busy at the airport?
Can I just ask you, the first thing that you mentioned about the flight attendant who was strapped in, we'd heard from one of our aviation
This is from
experts,
sources. It's not confirmed officially from.
We'd heard that she may have been in that jump seat that was sort of facing the passengers with her back there. And so in a sense, when the front of the plane gets sheared off, she's sort of in that area. I mean, Did you hear anything more about anything along those lines?
No, I don't know. You know, it wasn't the. I don't know about the size of the plane or where she was. It's just that was it. They're still trying to really go through everything that happened.
Piece it together,
and you
right?
know, the first thing that the investigators are going to be doing is they're going to be coming up with a timeline. But that's one of the busiest in terms of the ground control. The other thing that I learned too is that it's the air traffic control that even for a police vehicle, they have to give the police the clearance to move anywhere on that, you know, that whole space. We will call it tarmac, but they call this aeronautical area.
They're kind of in charge.
Yeah, we had some flight experts who also said even if you're given permission, you still have to be aware of your surroundings.
Right.
Anyway, we're looking at this. I think this is from Secretary Duffy's
Sean Duffy, yep.
Instagram.
Yeah.
This is up close and personal of what the plane looks like. I believe Secretary Duffy is either on the way to LaGuardia or is there already.
Yeah, and you talk, Lisa, about that the ARF. Is that what you said? The ARF vehicle. So it's not like it's a smaller vehicle. I mean, this is sort of a large.
It's a large vehicle,
Hulk kind of vehicle that, as it's moving, it had to either one of them had to be moving pretty fast, because when this impact happens, I mean, to cause damage like that.
Well, remember, they're responding to what basically a 911 call. This is like a police car speeding through an intersection, and there's another truck or another vehicle there. But I think the other thing is we had a preview when the Port Authority got some of this equipment a number of years ago. But the other thing about it is the officers were the ones that were Port Authority police officers who then showed up to help get those passengers off right away. Because I don't know if we have the picture of the video. They have it's not the ladder truck, it's like the stairway vehicle that goes right up, and they got people up and got them away. So they did a very good job with that too, because you're thinking fuel, you're thinking everything that could. It was bad, and our condolences, of course, to the families of the pilots and who lost their lives, and praying for the recovery of everybody that's still in the hospital.
100%. Lisa Evers, thank you so very much. Okay. And we are continuing to learn more about what caused the deadly collision on the runway of LaGuardia.
We're going to have more information when Good Day returns.
Collided with a Port Authority fire truck, which was responding to a separate incident. The collision happened all around 11:40 last night, 11:40. The plane was coming from Montreal and carrying 72 passengers and 4 crew members.
The 2 pilots were killed. 2 Port Authority officers were injured. They are in stable condition this morning. LaGuardia Airport is expected to open at 2 o'clock today, but we don't have an official confirmation on that. The NTSB is on the scene. Secretary of Transportation Duffy is on the scene. And people who have flights scheduled for this afternoon, I would call your airline to see whether that's going to be taking off from LaGuardia.
Big problems this morning. Let's get over to Briella Tomasetti. She's joining us more with some of the implications of what it all means, Briella.
Long-ranging implications, Dan and Rosanna. It was expected already to be a busy day at local airports before this deadly collision happened. JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark are 3 of the 14 high-volume U.S. airports where White House Border Czar Tom Homan announced that ICE agents would be deployed beginning today. Federal immigration agents have already been spotted at Atlanta Airport. You can actually see them here on the monitor behind me. They are enforcing operations right now as we speak. Passengers, even those not leaving the country, are being advised to arrive at least 4 hours early. That is just incredible for domestic flights. The chaos started over the weekend with long lines snaking through LaGuardia and wait times climbing to 3 hours due to the ongoing Homeland Security shutdown and TSA shortage. Travel issues surged after that Air Canada passenger jet collided with a Port Authority vehicle at LaGuardia late last night. Some flights were diverted to JFK, where crowds filled the terminals and travelers waited in long lines. We have reaction from frustrated passengers caught in the crosshairs of all of this. First, you'll hear from a young woman who was supposed to take off from LaGuardia last night, bound for Columbus, Ohio. She says that she sat on the runway for several hours before finding out that the airport was shut down.
My flight was supposed to leave at 8 p.m. and we were stuck in the craziness of the security for about an hour, even with, pre-check and clear and everything. And we finally got through. And then our flight got delayed 1 hour, and then it got delayed another hour. Then we're on the plane finally. We were on the plane for a total of 3 hours waiting on the runway. Someone in the aisle in front of me said, "Everyone look on Twitter, a plane crashed into the fire truck." So then everyone looked, everyone started panicking. The flight attendants weren't really saying much until we all saw, and then they notified us that we had to get off the plane.
We spoke with another family who had a flight scheduled for 8 o'clock last night to Tulsa, Oklahoma, but arrived at LaGuardia at noon, hours early, anticipating long security lines. They say they switched planes 3 different times before learning about the deadly collision, not from flight staff, but via social media.
Are you aware what happened here with that accident?
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly was told to you guys inside?
Nothing.
Nothing.
That there was an incident.
Just look on your news.
Yeah, look on your phone, basically. Yeah,
what's your plan?
We're going to go to JFK and see what we can get on there.
According to FlightAware, more than 1,000 flights were scheduled to or from LaGuardia Airport today. 585 of them, at last count, have been canceled. And according to the FAA, there are departure delays at Newark Airport, averaging 15 minutes and increasing. That is pretty minor, all things considered. We're going to see a lot of congestion at other airports due to this situation. Rosanna and Dan.
Right, and Delta is now saying they'll automatically rebook customers, but you should call your airline.
All right, Briella, thank you very much. We'll be right back.
Okay, well, we're wrapping it up right now, but Fox 5 will have much more on this deadly collision at LaGuardia Airport throughout the day. Stay tuned for the Jennifer Hudson Show at 11. Don't forget to watch the news. They'll have more information on this.
That's right. You're seeing the plane here live on the tarmac. That's the plane that collided with the Port Authority vehicle. The pilot and co-pilot were killed. Dozens and dozens of people injured, all sent to the hospital. The NTSB, a GO team, has arrived on the scene, of course, trying to recreate exactly what happened. They want to know what went wrong. Air traffic controller will certainly be questioned in this incident.
And there are, reports that one of those air traffic controllers said he messed up. Whether that can be verified at this point, there were reports out there. He had told that fire truck that to go, gave him permission. Anyway, we will have all the news for you right here on Fox 5. We appreciate you watching. Have a good day, New York.
Thanks for watching Fox 5's Newsroom Live. We're now joining Live Now's non-stop stream of live and breaking news.
There's something very much unchanging, and the thing that we know about election administration, it is very much been changing throughout the course of our country.
It's been changing throughout the course in a way that undermines the notion that there was one consistent practice, first of all, or that Congress's law, the meaning of Election Day in the federal statutes somehow was tied to what the state's practices were about that. I mean, I think this was your original point, that there were lots of different practices. And so to the extent we're saying, oh, you could only look at Election Day in the federal statute to mean exactly what the state